Yeah, so as Robin mentioned, I'm Carolyn. I work at Contentful, and I'm here to talk to you about humanizing your documentation. Or for the sake of a 5-minute talk, it'll be more like a quick introduction to use case-driven documentation, plus some other stuff that I think is cool. So I want to start off with a question. Why do we even write documentation? Is it because someone told us to do it? Or because our competitors have it? Or is it because we really want our users to be able to achieve their goals? It should be the latter, but I'm willing to bet that more often than not, it is the first. Documentation is often an afterthought. It's something that we just work to get done. But what if we put in the same care and consideration into our docs like we do the features we develop? So I'm going to introduce use case-driven documentation. It derives from this idea of goal-driven documentation, which was made popular by Tyler Blaine in 2006. And the concept itself is pretty straightforward. It's where you put your users' goals at the focal point of your documentation, as opposed to just, explaining elements in your interface from left to right. And a common example to explain use case-driven documentation is a power drill. So if we were documenting this drill, and we were doing so in just a standard way, we might end up with some instructions that look like this. So we can know how to adjust the speed, we can change the direction of the drill, or maybe even change the drill bit. Okay, so you know how to operate a drill. But do you actually know how to get anything done with it? So let's rethink this a little bit. What if we, focus on really how to do the job instead of just using the tool? Then maybe it'll look something like this. How to drill a hole in a flat surface, whether it's wood or metal. Maybe how to select the right screw for fastening the different items. Or how to stir paint with your drill. This is something that's really applicable to the people using your drill. And the same can be said for your software. We're not necessarily writing documentation to teach people how to use our software. We're writing documentation to be able to, show people how to achieve their goals or solve their problems using our software. So to diagram this idea, when you do a use case, you start with a goal. And if you're using use case-driven development, the rest of your workflow will look something like this. You'll define the functional requirements, you'll design the product, and then you'll implement the feature. The problem, or what most documentation is doing right now, is starting at the implementation phase. It's once you've already finished that feature. And this is OK, but I'm proposing that we start here at the use case. That way, the beauty of this is that you can design your documentation simultaneously with the features that you're developing. And I understand that this takes it's a structural change in how we think about documentation. And it's not always feasible, especially if you're not the one controlling how you think about documentation. But I have some quick tips that will give you some examples for how you can maybe start doing it tomorrow. But first, I have a few good examples for you to check out. I tried to find some React-based ones, but realistically, I just love these ones so much. So Apache's Subversion uses this goal-driven documentation approach, and Apple II's basic programming manual from, yes, the 1970s, has really great examples of the nuances of tackling user errors before they even know they're going to happen. So they explain syntax errors before they even have their user's code. So as I mentioned, I have some quick tips. So making sure our language doesn't isolate our users or alienate anyone. So we want to keep our docs gender neutral, eliminating words like simple or easy, because after all, if you've been struggling with a bug for 2 hours, do you really want someone to say, but this is so easy? I don't think so. So Not including read times, because you don't know what the situation is. And then also using plain language. So there's Hemingway Editor is an in-app or a web app that you can use and put your text into, and it'll highlight problematic words or phrases. And you want to aim for about a grade 8 reading level. There are also similar web apps and extensions to highlight gendered language within your docs. And accessibility is something that we should also keep in mind, because there's a wide range of people who might be viewing our docs. So you want well-structured content. You want something that assistive technology will be able to recognize and understand what you're saying. So using bulleted lists, using descriptive headers. Descriptive linking, so instead of just click here, click here, click here, click here, maybe really explaining where this link is going to go, and then having the titles of that page appropriately reflect what that link says. And not using color to convey information to accommodate color blindness. And another tool for all of these is Cupper, which is a documentation builder built by Hayden Pickering, and it's for inclusive design. And he also has on his GitHub an inclusive design checklist that you can also use while building out your features and your docs. And that's all I have. Thank you.